Good afternoon and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Coast EVs, your fortnightly fast charge on electric vehicles and infrastructure. Quick reminder that if I do my job properly and the gremlins don't mess me up, then we are available next day audio on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, all the usual places you would get your audio replays, and obviously YouTube does the replay as well. So thank you for joining us. Let us know where you are, what you're driving, and where you're charging, I guess, will be the topic for tonight. But also have to welcome the unfamiliar face, but very welcome face, Mr. Jay Williams of Wisconsin. Sorry, I'm going to do this a lot tonight, Jay, so apologies. Wisconsin EV. On YouTube, chronicling some excellent videos from around the Wisconsin area, but also kind of Great Lakes. Some really interesting stuff going on over there, as we'll discuss tonight. And you can definitely go out after this and check the YouTube channel for a lot of videos from Jay. So welcome, Jay, and maybe you could give us a little bit of background on where you are in Wisconsin and what you're doing in your EV.
Thank you very much. I always think of, when somebody called into a radio show, they'd say, long time listener, first time caller. That's how I feel. Thanks for taking my call. I have only owned a BEV since last October. I bought a used 2023 Volvo C40 and drove that all around. Took it to Indianapolis for the Big Ten tournament. My main job, I'm a video producer by job, and I produce the coaches show for the team with this logo right here. So drove to Indianapolis for the Big Ten tournament, drove the C40 to Iowa, which was a little bit more painful than driving to Indianapolis in it, just because of the charging. And that's kind of when I first thought, hey, I could, create some content and maybe do some good, in an area where there isn't a lot of content coming out of. So right now I'm driving a 2024 Chevy Equinox EV. Love the Super Cruise in it. Love the 300 plus miles I can get in it. Those are the two big differences when I sold my Volvo C40 to Carvana back in May. That, and they paid me more than we originally paid for it. So there was, those three things really added up to where I'm at now. And I've done 11,000 miles on the Equinox over the summer, chasing around different places, but also just driving it all around Wisconsin and Minnesota. So
yeah, that Volvo C40, did yours have adaptive cruise control or just the cruise control that would run up the bumper on the person in front of you?
It did have adaptive. It was the ultimate.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I had the one that would not adapt, and it drove me crazy. It was so nice to switch from that to Super Cruise and just be like, I figured out I can't say this on a public forum, so no one tell anyone, but if you put on a pair of sunglasses, you could take a nap.
I definitely have it set up so that it buzzes my seat, and so nobody knows there's no beeping. So I'm like, oh, okay, I got to pay attention again. And everybody was like, what's going on? Oh, sorry, the car's telling me through the seat that I need to pay attention.
Thank you for the kind of background. It's good to get to know where you're coming from and how you got into this wonderful wild world of driving around your state to check out chargers, as so many of us do, and so many of our spouses don't understand. But they are willing to let us do that. So if anyone is noticing the obvious absence of Mr. Eric Way, he is, I don't know if we're allowed to share, but I'm sure everyone can infer, and it will already be figured out in the comments, which affordable EV is in the wings, and who has been driving a model of it for a very long time. So you can see where Eric is probably very soon in the next few days, but we'll leave it on the down low for the moment. But we obviously will miss him, but his coverage of what's coming will be very important. And in completely unrelated news, except quite related, affordable EVs are where we are landing for the news. Now, there's been a few individual pieces this week. Really, like the day after, actually. Our last show was the electric vehicle tax credit, or not tax credits, clean vehicle credits ending on a week after we broadcast. And that did happen. Within probably 12 hours, we had Hyundai slashing the price of the Ioniq 5 for 2026 up to about almost $10,000. 9,800 was the number I had, and it puts one of the standard range versions of the Ioniq 5 at around 35,000. So that kind of familiar price point that the Equinox EV that you gentlemen are both familiar with at the LT level is kind of hitting. Model Y and Model 3 yesterday were unveiled as decontented standard, slightly different on the Model Y, looks a little bit different with the light bar and are not centered across the front, just the individual lights, so you can tell the difference. But essentially, the car we know and love just kind of taken down to a very bare bones level and just below $40,000 price point. Some people disappointed that didn't go a little bit lower. And then the Model 3 standard, which people seem to be a little more happy with, getting down to just below 37,000. Similar kind of things, a little bit decontented, single motors, rear wheel drive, no touchscreen in the back of the Model 3 there. So a few things they've just done to kind of cut some corners. Walter, both of you really have Equinox EV, so you know what you're getting at that level. I've got a Bolt EV in the kind of older version, but I know, what we're getting with the Ioniq 5, even if it's a lower version, lower trim. What are you feeling about the kind of move to get to affordability with these models? Is it going to be enough, or, what's your initial take after all the hubbubs died down of the credits going away and this early moves to kind of shift to more affordable electric vehicles?
Yeah, so if Spartan is the way to affordability, I don't think GM is following script. And Jay, I think you could probably attest my Volvo XC40 Recharge. You had a C40, but I had an XC40. I was pretty comfortable with its form factor inside my garage. And I'm assuming as a northerner, you park your car in the garage.
Yep.
And down here in the South, they don't do that. I don't know why people don't do that, but I still park my car in the garage because it's a old habits die hard. And when I got the Equinox and I stood back and looked, it's bigger. It takes up more space in the garage. And this at the time was the smallest General Motors car, and it's got tons of content. It's got ambient lights on the inside that are adjustable, and all kinds of creature comforts going on inside there. I got a 2RS, and I'm very happy. I got alloy wheels, splurged on some roof racks, and a few other creature comforts in order to put my umbrella and commutable things in the back of the trunk. And it's a very comfortable. I would not call it a budget car. It's in my opinion, a nicer car than the XC40 Recharge, which was at a higher price point, and is bigger, and it goes farther, and it charges faster, and it just doesn't make sense to me. And we could talk about the affordability discussion coming up here in just a second. And I don't think Spartan is necessarily what is being presented to us by either Tesla or General Motors, and there's a few others throwing their hats to the rings for these lower cost models as well. It seems like they're maintaining a pretty high feature set, not only all the safety features that we in the North America and the United States have come to demand, and our government and the regulations have instituted into regulations, but tons of creature comforts. The infotainment being sophisticated, being able to walk up to the car and it unlock itself, walk away from the car and it lock itself, and apps on our phones in order to turn on the environment 20 minutes away. So when we get there, it's nice and cool. And just all these little new things that are available. Wave your foot underneath the back of the trunk and the hatch open. I would not call these Spartan cars. I think the feature set list has increased over time. And although affordability is being used to describe them, 10 years ago, these were luxury cars.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think moving from the Volvo, that was the first time I'd ever owned a Volvo, and it was much smaller than the Outback, Subaru Outback I had. But that thing was also 2014. So I felt like I was, in the lap of luxury in a C40. But yeah, the mileage is the big thing. Like that 226 to 319 is a big difference. And I'm truly seeing, over 300 miles, driving up to Rhinelander. Like I don't do like a lot of, or I do a lot of around town stuff, but like I'll, yes, I probably don't drive 80 anymore, which I might do in the Subaru, because I didn't really care. The mileage is terrible anyway, so I didn't really care. So now I'm down in like the 73. I'll go less if I want to really feel like I'm conserving the battery, but yeah, I didn't read a lot about the Tesla coverage, but it seemed like there wasn't, stripping stuff away didn't seem like the way to savings that in my book. Are people buying these because they are just paying X dollars? I don't know. I don't think so. So I guess innovating rather than stripping out stuff may have been the way I would have gone, but I'm not, a billionaire.
Well, it's interesting because there's a few different ways here of getting to that lower price point, right? So it looks like GM has made it on the production side. They've found a way. They've got a lot, to be fair, a lot of history making. The Bolt was quite bare bones, and that is in the real sense of it. There's not a whole lot of luxury in there except for a few little creature comforts that do make a difference, but I think they've had that production plan for a long time. This has been brewing for a while, and they've got this roster of Equinox EV, other EV that we're expecting very soon, coming before that, moving on to Blazer EV, then into the kind of Cadillac lineups, and it's quite a well thought out stable and produced domestically. So they've got that piece going for them, and then the range is an interesting side of it because although Hyundai gets a lot of plaudits for the charging, obviously, and the car is very nice. It does feel on the not the premium end, but certainly a very nice ride, very smooth, very quiet in the cabin. But the range side is where we fall down. Like admittedly, mine's on the limited end, so it's got the all-wheel drive. But even this $35,000 version that we're talking about is going to be in the kind of 250s. You're not going to see anywhere near to that 300 miles. And although obviously we know Tesla has some fungibility with range, highway range, you're probably talking under 300 as well. So that Equinox EV really starts to stand out at that kind of 35,000 price point, plus whatever GM throws at it in terms of leases and the things they're still doing for manufacturer discounts. It's hard to see anything but maybe the Bolt EV, obviously, which is still in their stable. And then the Nissan Leaf is the kind of wild card. Pricing looks excellent, below $30,000, but they're not making it in the US anymore. So that's a piece that's going to be subject to whatever's going on with tariffs, and we don't know day to day what that will be. And then obviously it's still, Nissan has this thing where they announced the Ariya in 2020, eventually came out, I think 23. 3 years later, it's kind of middle of the pack. At the time, it was a very, very compelling crossover, and now it gets to a point where it's kind of too expensive, middle of the pack, doesn't do anything all that well. So I wonder if the Leaf can really stand up in the market that's coming here, but it still kind of leaves that last car standing, or maybe the last two affordable EVs standing, as the coming Chevy Bolt EV and the Equinox EV. Am I missing anything there? Is there something that could slide in and kind of steal its thunder?
Yeah, so I was kind of thinking that Polestar might, although they're kind of a premium brand, might be putting something a little bit more affordable besides the 3 out, but all their lines, they seem to be going upstream instead of downstream. And I was thinking about Nissan today. The concern I would have is that I wonder about their long-term viability in purchasing a car from a company that may not exist in 3 years. They definitely are on thin ice. And the recent, as you mentioned, pivots where they're pulling away from production volumes and producing in the States and trying to stay incredibly lean with their tried and true and not making any new investments in production lines in the United States is very concerning. That's telling us there's not a lot of money, and one blast of wind coming from the wrong direction could knock them over, is what it feels like. And I think there's a couple of companies that are kind of lining up to see if there's pieces of Nissan that might be of interest to them. I think it's already to that stage. But to answer the question, no, I think in the short term, we'll be duking out between the, for lower cost, it would be the 2 Teslas that were just announced and the Bolt. I really think, and of those, it's interesting, but I almost wonder if General Motors is going to do what they were claiming to do and unseat Tesla as the #1 position. At least in certain segments, I think it's very possible that General Motors could have the leading car, and we've already seen them supersede Tesla in Canada. And the question is, would that happen here in Tesla's home turf? And I guess that's yet to be seen.
Jay, if you have a pick there, or I mean, obviously you're in the seat for an Equinox EV, but do you see anyone else kind of challenging Tesla beyond GM?
I don't know. I like the look of the new Leaf, right? Like that looks, it's an interesting car. I like, you know, from the stuff that I've watched, it looks like a player, but you know, if it's being made in Japan and it's what, 15 or 25% or what is it? What day is it? Percent over the MSRP for a tariff, then it becomes a lot less interesting. So I guess I wish, I'm not a big Tesla fan, but I wish that they would have just, instead of reconfiguring, moving some shells around, they would have kind of dropped something new. I think they missed an opportunity there. But now I've also just bought 2 used EVs. They still had full factory warranties, but so I'm saving money there too.
And if I could chime in on that, the pivot from Tesla, that what we saw with a 5,000 knockoff decontented 3 and Y versus what was kind of being promised. And I was listening to a couple of YouTube channels concerning the releases. This has apparently been on the board since like February 2024, and a lot of people are feeling underwhelmed with what has been delivered. Overpromised, underdelivered is a pretty common theme. And it almost feels like they had to come out with something, because unlike General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis, and other traditional OEMs who have, as you say, a wide stable of both ICE and EV, as a pure play EV company, they couldn't just stand back and not do anything after $7,500 tax credit was taken out of the free market and watch their sales plummet, because they're wholly dependent on the popularity of electric vehicles for their sales, and the other ones are not. So they had to do something, and it almost feels a little rushed, but maybe I'm interpreting it incorrectly. However, my personal opinion is that Model 3 is definitely going to be a winner. I was a Model 3 owner, and I never had any problems. But the reason we got out of it was because it was a little too low, and my wife was having some hip problems at the time, and we just wanted something a little bit higher. And so we traded in, we got something else, and moved on with our lives. But I never had a problem with it. It was just the reliability was so mind-blowing to me that it was no maintenance schedule whatsoever. You just basically replace the tires and fill the windshield washer fluid. And I'm assuming it's the same for people who entered electric vehicle adoption with the Bolt back in the day, or the Leafs. And the speed, you know, I always had to keep it on chill mode to keep the blue lights lighting up my rearview mirror. So the Model 3, I think, is definitely the lower cost Model 3. I definitely is going to catch a lot of people's attention.
I think that's the piece of it, right? Is a lot of people who are pushing back against the inevitable disappointment every time Tesla promises something, or hints a reveal, and then it's a decontented something or other that's only going to be available for 5 minutes. It usually sends the stock price up and then down afterwards. But the point that a lot of people are making is that this gets, the headline price point, this, like with so many of these things, is whatever the lowest one is, and then you start to upsell people to the other ones. So you get them in the door for price X, knowing that in probably 60 or 70% of cases, someone's going to add a few options, or they're going to say, look, well, just for a few thousand more, you get this, this, and this, and then you upsell them a little bit to the next model. So maybe, we think about this a lot as EV, enthusiasts. People have been doing this for a while and like the cars and wants to see Tesla come up with something, you know, completely new, groundbreaking, and you know, reinventing the wheel. But maybe for the mainstream, what we need is exactly what, you know, GM is doing. Just, you know, here's a solid vehicle, one that you kind of know the namesake of already, get into the price point, and then actually I want exactly what Walter says: faster, you know, better software. I want all these things that just add a little bit to the price point, but make me understand that EVs are the option that I want to go for. But we will see, because Q4 sales will be rather instructive, I think, of how the post-incentive landscape is playing out with all the various ways people are handling it. So we'll save that for another day, because we have to move on to the wonderful Great Lakes region, which I'm a big fan of. I haven't been for a couple of years now, Jay. I passed through somewhere really pleasant near the Dells a couple of years ago, and I charged in Baraboo at some casino around there. I think everything, as you'll get onto here, has changed a lot since then, so it's probably not just Electrify America and the odd Soul Stall Shell garage place, but there's obviously people here kind of familiar with your work. Brian in Minnesota is very close to you and probably attracted by the Great Lakes as he has his adventures with Joan and his family. And Dennis is over in Michigan. Love your videos, Jay, making me want to drive to Rhinelander for the Culvers and Ashland for the Lake Superior view. But maybe you can give us a little rundown of kind of your area. And we've got a bunch of maps to pop up here as we go. Let's just tell me what you want to put up and I'll stick them up.
Yeah, I hope I didn't over map you, but I think, so I think map number 1 is like a good place to start. So NEVI, I think Wisconsin has done a pretty good job of putting NEVI into action. So this is basically from their handout or their plan that went out a couple of years ago. This exact slide shows there are 4 spots in the state that had NEVI compliant charging. There's a West Milwaukee Electrify America. There is a East Madison Electrify America. We'll skip over Baraboo on the way to Toma and the Electrify America, and the Electrify America up in Eau Claire. All 4 of those are still the same equipment, and the you get your typical Electrify America usage today on gear from 2018 or 2019. They have some newer ones in the state, which I think are much better experience, but that's the original. So then number 2, so that's the state when NEVI was started, right? That was, you know, what you experienced, you know, in Baraboo at the Ho Chunk Casino. I know I just saw Walter report on those were just changed out, or they just hit the alternative fuel data center again. They weren't changed out, they just got switched over to ChargePoint, I believe. So I like knowing something when I hear Walter talk about it. You know, little back secrets, or like, you know, little pieces of information. I feel kind of cool when I'm watching the TNAC report each week, if there's one in Wisconsin, which isn't always. So then the second map, I think, is so this is where we are in 2024, right? These are all, again, well, no, I think there's 8 of them that are Electrify America out of 10 NEVI compliant charging stations. So Wisconsin had to actually pass a law that made it legal for entities to sell electricity not by the kilowatt. Previously, everything would be by the minute you would be sold. So Electrify America, you'd plug in and you'd be charged, you know, whatever, 42 cents a minute or however it was. Thankfully, they've gone away from that, but it was a law on the books that we had to change in order to open up NEVI. So that's where we are in 2024 when NEVI kind of gets things rolling. Still not great, but boy, it looks a lot better than the 4 that were there originally. And then what do we have next? Map number 3. That's where we are with NEVI. So this is the NEVI stations that are open. Great, filling in gaps, right? Look at, you know, all the little green dots on there. Really kind of can change the way that things look. Now, this doesn't include all of the new stuff that's come in. Tesla has opened a bunch, which we'll look at in a little bit. But that little line up there, Route 8, it was a lonely place for charging or the lack of it until, the station in Rhinelander, which is kind of that center one by Highway 51, Ladysmith over on the western side on Highway 8, and then Ashland is the one up on the top by Lake Superior. And then Wasaki is the other one that's up there on the eastern side by Michigan. So, we're in a lot better place now. And these are the ones that are just open. It's only 9 out of 52, I think. So we're kind of like taking baby steps. But the first one opened on December 12th of last year. That was Kwik Charges. They had 3 that opened on the same day: Ashland, Menominee, and Chippewa Falls. So the first, I think Kwik Charge is the next one that we wanted to look at, or what was my next one on there that I sent you?
Yeah, let me go. I actually just pop up because we're on Kwik Charge. This is a slightly different visual.
Okay.
There's that one there.
Yeah, so this is their map. The red ones that are currently open. There's 6. That West Salem one is that's deceiving because the West Salem and La Crosse are only 12 miles apart. West Salem is not a NEVI site. It was opened on December 1st, and it's I would say their headline location. It was the first. It's got the only canopy in the network as of right now. I know that was the first time that I really thought, hey, boy, a canopy is really nice in July when the sun is beating down on you. And then the blue circles are the ones that are actually under construction right now. Pleasant Prairie down in the bottom right corner, that's on I-94. That one should be opening very soon. The information that I have is that it's about ready to go. Fond du Lac, which is kind of in the middle, that's maybe next. But anyway, it kind of like fills out their map a little bit there with and so this is so it's on the base of the same NEVI map. So, but the orange dots really don't mean anything, I guess, here. But now the yellow dots are ones that are under construction. Okay, these are the NEVI sites that are under construction. So not just Kwik Charge, but these are the all of the NEVI sites. So Francis Energy has that little yellow dot up in the top left corner closest to Duluth. So that one looks like it's deep into construction, maybe just waiting on a transformer. I know a lot of people have said that, oh, you're probably waiting on transformers and that's the problem. And from the information that I've gotten, it's getting transformers hasn't been as big of a deal as, some have made it out. And maybe that's not what's holding things up. There are only so many crews, I think, that can do this level of work in Wisconsin. It's not California. It's not New York where, they might be putting these up a lot more. So I think, a combination of those might be more at play than just waiting for a box.
Yeah. And I watched the video from this site, the Rhinelander site, just before the stream here. And you were talking to one of the crews. I think that's their truck there on the left. Is it FTI?
Yep.
And that was I don't know how, I don't think it got too deep into the weeds, but it looked like that one was a reasonable turnaround. And did they give you any more insight into as a kind of, that was 060, so it's a slightly newer provider, but did they give you any insight into the kind of local, vagaries of getting a site installed in somewhere a little more remote than some of your, Ohio's or East Coast places? So Rhinelander actually was under construction basically all summer. So it's a NEVI site. It was on their dashboard. So when it first, flips to yellow, and that means it's under construction on their site, I was like, oh, this is great. Up in the North Woods, this will be a great spot. And it just kind of ticked off and nothing really was happening. My daughter was actually up in the North Woods all summer. So I paid for her gas and Culver's to go down there and check the site out a couple of times to just say, hey, give me some, visuals. What's going on? And she'd be like, Dad, there's nothing going on here. It's just a Culver's parking lot. So eventually I felt like they, whatever they were waiting on,
they got it going, and I think that's a great spot. And like I talked with Walter about it. It really opens things up when your other alternative is a 2019 50 kilowatt charger. I don't even want to use the word fast, but 50 kilowatt charger across town. That's your other alternative, unless you're going 30 miles out of your way up to Minocqua for the older V3 supercharger that's up there.
And no ice cream or bathroom.
I mean, you gotta get your Butterburger and custard. That's for sure.
Yeah, Walter, how jealous are you of this now? Like the Culver's getting there, the Quick Trip Glazers, and the coffee. Like,
yeah, I would want to dial down the speed on those puppies and kind of stay there for 45 minutes, right?
That's why I don't think like 160 at the Culver's is really that bad of a deal, right? If you're going to be there for 30 minutes anyway, hopefully you're not sitting there watching your car charge.
Yeah, I don't know if you're like me, but I get the burger first and I enjoy that. Then I go back so it's 30 minutes easy.
Yeah. You don't want it to melt while it's sitting there on the count. Yeah.
You got to walk around with your drone. You got to give the whole site score. I mean, this is like, we need 55 kilowatts.
See, you get it.
Okay, so we definitely had some more maps. I mean, that gives us a really nice kind of foundation for.
Can you actually pull up the Tesla map? Yeah, sure. I thought that was, since obviously that's like everybody's kind of, this is it. This is the greatest network. So this basically up north in this state, there's the one in Minocqua, and that's it. And I think there's two more on here that will show you what there's one that has a Magic Dock site in between Madison and Milwaukee, in the white circle, white outline. There we go. So the red ones, there are still places where, it's not really a great thing. And when we get deeper in a quick charge, I'll tell you why that one in La Crosse, which is the far left-hand side on I-90, it's not, that one's like 125 kilowatt charger. So the quick charge in La Crosse, from my info, is getting a lot more NACS usage than any other of the other stations that are open, because there's not a lot of other Tesla charging in that area.
Right. I think it's easier for us to forget when we're on the coasts, or the kind of locations where there are 100 superchargers that have all been overhauled and updated with Magic Dock since day one. That there's vast lengths of route. I went a little further west after Minnesota, and then no, that was a different year. But the trip that I made across, if you try and get through South Dakota to this day, those are still V2 superchargers. So you hit certain parts of the country, and there's a whole upgrade program that Tesla's going to have to do, hopefully, to V4, through V4 at that point, to really beef up those sites. We're starting to see it. Walter had one of these on his FTC updates the other day for Green River in Utah, which has really gone from that broken down, sometimes open coffee shop and the 4-stall Electrify America site, to now there's a Rivian Adventure Network that's open to everybody.
There's 16 stalls, yeah.
Right. So they've overnight transformed it. Another in Utah with Beaver, I think the Rivian opened. It was either Rivian or Iona opened the same as Tesla, right? So this is kind of laying the ground for what we're going to come onto with this kind of DC fast charging boom and where it's happening. But you see, there's still disparities. It's not happening everywhere, right? So Wisconsin's a good example of somewhere it didn't happen at the same time as maybe the coasts or the California, Pacific Northwest kind of regions, but it is starting to make that progress. You've seen that, Jay, happening in front of you, and those maps that we've looked at so far kind of emphasize that. But I think the maps you've got coming up kind of really ram that home.
Put up whichever one you have up there next, and I'll just kind of talk, because I didn't pull out the one that I had. So this is with the NEVI sites. Those are the 3 NEVI providers right now on the side, and the Tesla network. Tesla does have a couple of NEVI sites. They are not under construction yet. There's one in Janesville and then one outside of Milwaukee. So I'm not sure exactly what they've got planned for their NEVI sites in Wisconsin, but the 6 or the 5 NEVI quick charge are there some of the green dots. 060 in the center up north in Rhinelander, and the Francis Energy has 4 of them, or will have 4 of them as well. So, yeah, this is, the map is kind of, even with Tesla now, it kind of looks a little different, doesn't it? It just feels like, okay, it's possible to drive around now everywhere. No, because there's still going down to Iowa. That Mount Horeb station is the last one until you hit Dubuque, which is an 80-mile hole on a road that gets 30,000 cars per day. It's not like it's, a back road. It's a 4-lane divided highway that it's not, it's really like an interstate level road, except it has farm roads that go off of it. So really it's just an interstate without exits. So, what kind of, there is a one on the NEVI board that's in Platteville, which would, make that a 50-mile spot instead of an 80. So, but yeah, the map is filling in, right? And those are the ones that are under construction. And I think most of them, with the level of construction, and Kwik Charge like turns one on and starts 2 more. So it, we'll see, maybe next week after the Pleasant Prairie site goes live and is commissioned, maybe they'll pop 2 more on the board. And, I think they like to stay busy. So that's great for people driving around.
And it's a brand that extends into certainly Minnesota. I think you had Iowa on the board there. What's the regional kind of cutoff where they run out of stores?
They have some in Illinois. I believe they also have some in Michigan, but maybe just in the UP or Upper Peninsula. And then they have the weird part is that in Minnesota, they're Kwik Trip, Wisconsin, they're Kwik Trip, but in Illinois, and I think in Iowa, they're Kwik Star. So the logo changes a little bit, but same people, same company, and the same amenities, same everything once you get to the spot. Yeah, they've got, let's see, 10 NEVI sites that have been awarded in Iowa, and then 9 in Minnesota. So if you got 24 in Wisconsin plus 9 and 10, that's over 40 stations. If you're just driving regionally, that's a pretty good start. Now, they also have 10 sites that aren't Kwik Charge, but have fast charging at them. So that was kind of what I think they, that was their dipping their toe into it. Johnson Creek, they have the only Magic Dock station in the state. It's at a Kwik Trip. And it's great because it's really the only place between Milwaukee and Madison right now, until the NEVI construction finishes, that you can stop and charge. It's crazy to me that there's, so many millions of people that live in the southern part of the state, but you can't find a charge between East Madison and West Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those kind of, it's one thing to show kind of where NEVI steps in a little bit and starts to catalyze things, because there's other areas where it has been very duplicative. It's just put chargers in where chargers were going anyway. Certainly with Tesla, that's been the case. They kept building regardless of NEVI, but it does underscore the point that in some parts of the country, this is going to be really valuable. It's going to, start other chains saying, well, not just that we've got these on site, because that happened with Love's. They've got a bunch of scattered sites from Electrify America and Tesla, and different chargers on site. Sheets, Wawa. There's a lot of chains around that are going to start to think, well, that chain's doing this. They're all regional. They start to compete in different areas, and then obviously you've got the mega sites of your Buc-ee's and the larger kind of chains starting to put real significant projects in. So NEVI has helped in some of these areas. Other areas it's arguably hindered, but it's worth saying it's still continued rumbling on, especially in Wisconsin during that period. And Wisconsin was one of those plaintiff states that kind of stepped in to get it sorted in court, really, and to keep rolling, as we're going to start to see now, I think. So it does lead us on to kind of a productive Q3. That sets the stage for this boom. It may not feel in some areas of the country like this boom is happening, but Walter, you are kind of covering this every week. You're seeing these stations flow. Tesla announced that they had globally their biggest record quarter yet. 4,000 charging stalls. I think the previous record was back in 2020, which was 3,800 something. And even, that's globally. Obviously, we focus on North America here, but more than half of those were in the US and Canada. So it's, this is a big market for them. If there's action happening and they're setting record quarters, it means they're setting records in the States as well. Week to week, what are you seeing, from the AFDC download? Where's it happening, or what kind of insights do you glean from pulling those numbers and showing the different sites that come up?
So truth is, I don't really analyze the data as it comes. I basically just look. The whole motivation I have for the AFDC data dump each Friday is just my own personal interest to see if there's anything around me, and then I post it up. And like Jay said, other people are like latching on to it. Okay, well, what's near me? And but I did throw up a graph, and I don't know if you can see it, Steve, that shows the growth. Thank you. Yes, the growth over time of DC fast charger stalls. And someone asked me if I could throw this into my week report. I don't think I'm going to, but I do have a bookmark that I occasionally reference too. And if you look right now, this is DC fast chargers only. And that number is over 60, headed towards 70. It's a little bit dated. I don't know why it didn't. That was July 2025. Okay, so yeah, somewhere in there. I think we're closer to 70, but according to the 2023 study, we're supposed to get to 180, but right now adjustments have come down to about 130. So, we're about halfway there. And as you say, Tesla has definitely hit their stride and are churning. If the goal is numbers, Tesla wins. They have definitely figured out a way of exploding the number of DC fast chargers. They just put one in near my house at a brand new Starbucks. A brand new Starbucks was getting built. And as it opened, like the day one that Starbucks was open, the supercharger that was attached to it opened on the exact same day with V4 stalls. Beautiful. And that thing is swarmed just about every single day. I drive by, going to the train station, coming back home, still swarmed. And I just got back. Literally, this station is on one side of Interstate 85. On the other side of the Interstate 85, there's another 16 stall station going in, and it just started construction. So why they're sitting there saying, okay, well, this 116 stall station is not enough, so we got to put in another 16 stall station right down the road. And that's the type of thinking that they're going through. So definitely, as far as raw numbers go, the Tesla Supercharger team is unmatched and likely is going to stay that way for a long time. As far as regions go, one area that seems to be lacking is the Upper East Coast, which is kind of surprising. And when Jay was talking just now, really what I was hearing was a narrative saying that we just quietly transitioned from a couple of charging locations that were basically available for people who were coming out of metropolitan areas elsewhere, and maybe a few locals, to some kind of cascading effect where EV adoption is starting to hit the agro areas of the United States, of which Wisconsin is very famous for, Iowa as well. And the state of Wisconsin is a very large state. People don't know how much agribusiness actually occurs in the state of Wisconsin. I think it's like third in cattle to Texas. And for a state like that to be the people who are running businesses, offering services to customers in a state like that, to think, you know what, we need a fast charger in Rhinelander. It makes sense to put one there, and we need a fast charger, away from the metropolitan areas. The reason being is because adoption is expanding everywhere. Now it's not just people who are traveling through the state going to points elsewhere. It's all the locals who are suddenly going to their local dealerships and starting to buy cars. And these stations are definitely looking to be in a pattern of servicing locals much more so than people passing through. And Jay, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Nothing to correct, Your Honor. I think that's it, right? I mean, I asked in I think one of the last videos that the interview that I did with Wade Leopold from FTI 060, I said, hey, the video had just come out 13 years ago, the supercharger network really started and whatever. And I asked him, are the dealers, is GM Energy saying, hey, we're putting our money now in this, and this will help us sell cars? And he kind of said, yeah. And it was, he agreed with what I was saying, that, it's not just the car or the charger. It's, we both will help both, I guess. So yeah. And it's great when they're in smaller parts. Now, I have been to the same trip I went up to Rhinelander. I stopped in a NEVI site in Ladysmith, Wisconsin, which, if you can find that on a map, I will give you a nickel. It is a tiny little town north of Eau Claire, between there and on the way up to like Duluth, Ashland. The usage numbers that I saw there make me think like maybe this wasn't a place that needed this charger, but for me it was like, great, it's there. Like I can now, make this swing that I couldn't make before. But I'm not sure how much it's going to be used. And like eventually that kind of NEVI money push kind of runs out, and does Francis Energy then say, oh, we need to replace this machine in Ladysmith that we basically got for 20 cents on the dollar? Hopefully that's just many years down the road, but I think that's kind of the next thing, is like, what is the usage on ones that aren't Teslas in 16 stall spots?
It's an interesting piece, because if on one side they're remote, there's a lot of these down in Texas. One of the first ones is on this Happy, Texas, literally called Happy, at a very nice independent restaurant by the sound of it. But the usage on that must be worrying, because it's in such a remote place that I don't know how much it's going to get used. But you think maybe like when we get more into like Upper Peninsula, Great Lakes, thinking my journey up to Duluth and along the North Shore there, those are busy roads. Like, I mean, I know they've got the Tesla superchargers up there, but for people who want something different, maybe the supercharger's not in the right place for them. There's other restaurant like the Culvers that they would want to visit and have that kind of 30-45 minute stop. If it's in a more remote area, that can be okay. But if it's in the right place, if it's got something that people want to stop at and it hits that seasonal traffic, that could pay for itself, even in just one summer season, or if it's skiing one winter season. I do want to get to a quick question, because I know this has come up on other videos as well, Walter. With Mercedes-Benz and Iona seeming to not be active in New York State specifically. Definitely haven't seen those, but have you anything in permitting, anything you've come across, or as a reason why they wouldn't be focusing on New York specifically?
They're definitely focused on Interstate 95, without a question. They're coming down from Maine, and I was actually trying to prep a Mercedes-Benz update, 'cause, although they haven't really opened any stations, well, they've opened one, but they haven't been opening as many as they had in previous quarters. The Q3 was kind of a slow time for them for some reason. There's been a ton of activity. There's been a lot of construction, a lot of Alpitronic hyperchargers going in the ground, a lot of progress being made. So I think it's just because they're targeting not a state, but a corridor. And right now, the Interstate 95 corridor, they're pretty slim pickings in the state of New York on Interstate 95 for property. You're going to be spending a pretty penny if you're going to be putting a charging station on Interstate 95 in the state of New York. Is my only guess, and it's a short stretch of 95 cutting through the pinnacle of New York there. So I think that's what's going on. I don't think it's a deliberate excluding of New York.
Yeah, the land in Connecticut and Pennsylvania there isn't probably going to get much cheaper either. Maybe even New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got that sliver, but then obviously like upstate blows out pretty wide, and you've got a lot of travel to Canada, albeit not as much at the moment for reasons we won't go into. People coming down from Canada at least. But the one thing I had a supposition on there was that there's a very, very well put together network in the form of Evolve New York, albeit it's Electrify America for the most part now, with a little bit of EV Connect tapped on, but they do cover, because they're run by the New York Power Authority, the state, in places where other networks may not have gone. So you've got all the way up to Adirondacks there, a lot of the outer Adirondack Loop, and then across the New York Thruway. Western New York still has some work to do, but I wonder if some of the networks have looked at that and said, well, they're doing a lot of that heavy lifting in places we may have otherwise gone, and maybe focusing on other areas. But as Walter pointed out, kind of Iona hits these. You've got that I-95 corridor, you've got the I-70 corridor starting to take shape a little bit. You can see the cross-country routes emerging there, and obviously most of the permitting action seems to be in California now. So there's just, I don't think they're, as you said, I don't think they're ignoring it specifically, but as areas go, there may be a reason they're not, prioritizing that area, because it's had a pretty good job done with it by the New York Power Authority.
Yeah, there is a tsunami of Iona stations getting ready to be lit. I've been doing trying to stay abreast of those, and poor Landon, because the gentleman does not know what he got himself into volunteering for the Walmart. I'm laughing, but
look at the Walmart store map and
it's blowing up. It is blowing the heck up. Everywhere I turn around, there's more Walmart stations getting spotted. So kudos to Landon for staying abreast of that. It's definitely a Herculean feat. But we're looking at an absolute tsunami of DC fast chargers. And the strange thing is, the vast majority of them, absent Tesla, are Alpitronic chargers. It's just stunning to see.
I like to say that Alpitronics are made in Wisconsin too. So which is,
there you go. Wisconsin pride.
Go team, go.
Have you been, where is that in Wisconsin?
Appleton, outside of Green Bay.
Oh, okay, in the middle east.
Yeah, yep. So center of the state, north to south, and then basically on the east side.
Have you ever been around there?
No, I mean, my wife is from up in that area, so I've been to a Packer game or two, and in general have driven in the area, but I haven't been up to Appleton yet. Brandon Flash was the one that kind of confirmed, because I was like, this can't be true. Why the heck would these things be made in Wisconsin? But I emailed him and I'm like, hey, is this true? And he said, yeah. So I was like, oh, well, great. Well, then,
yeah, the sheer volume of product getting pushed out onto the streets from that factory, they got to be running 3 shifts is all I could think. It's got to be 24/7, 365. They got to be pumping out as many as they possibly can.
Yeah, and I'm not exactly sure where it is in the town either. I've kind of done a little bit of digging, see like, oh, can I, is it like a huge parking lot with just pallets and pallets and pallets that you can see off from the satellite? But I haven't found that yet, and maybe there's a good reason.
Let's see. This is it's ballooned into quite a wide topic here, which I think I knew was going to happen anyway. We've touched on quick charge a little bit. I think I do want to go back to them, but I also want to hit really briefly, because it kind of overlaps with your area, Jay. Ready charge. Back in my first visit to the Upper Peninsula, they were the first kind of really exciting map to look at, because they blanketed, coming soon map at least, and this didn't prove to be the case that actually turned into reality yet. But they had the Upper Peninsula blanketed with fast chargers, and at the time the only way to get across was really level 2 and Tesla chargers before they were open. They've moved into my area pretty aggressively, and again, Walter, you'll see this every week on the AFDC listing, kind of a lot of sites for you to pick through and kind of pick some interesting ones from the Ready network. And one of the things that jumped out at me is that it's not just dealerships. You get an NEVI Connect, you get a Blink charging, and a lot of them are kind of dealership charging, which is fine, and it's an addition, but it's not. All things aren't created equal, right? Mostly people don't want to go to those chargers for a road trip, and maybe they'll use them in a pinch. But the Ready network was actually the 4th largest and possibly the 3rd largest additions in Q3.
Third, yeah.
ChargePoint does this thing with the kind of the station is the port, or the station is the dispenser, however they file it. So they were on fire and had about.
I don't know how they did it. Yeah, it's crazy.
So I see these stations come out there. That's why I kind of get into it with me, because I mean, this is on Alpitronic side, Autel as well is a manufacturer that is really starting to pop up in my area, especially across Massachusetts, but also New York with Charge Smart EV. Ready is using a variety of hardware. I've seen them using Autel's maxi chargers. Trying to think now off the top of my head, they've got a whole testing facility in Detroit which has all types of different chargers. I think they used ADS Tech for a while.
Yeah, the new one is Vive, the Korean
Right,
company.
right. You had that on your last digest, right?
Yeah, and they I was going to mention in the next one also that Vive posted into LinkedIn on their page that's their flagship, and I looked them up, and actually their offices in the United States are close to that station. So I'm expecting we'll see more from them shortly.
So I think like the wrapping it all up to a kind of through line here. There's a lot of hardware players. Obviously, Alpatronic is the headline, but we've not mentioned Kempower yet. They're starting to get into various fleets and some of the ZepNet in Jay's area over in Minnesota. They're starting to be their provider as well as Revel. A lot of new providers that we haven't even heard a whole lot about. So on the hardware side, there's a lot of action. On the NEVI side, obviously, we're seeing a resurgence. We're seeing just the sleeping giants is what you have to call them. I think Iona with just over 30 stations active, but hundreds potentially in the permitting and planning phase. Same with Walmart, barely in, I don't think they're even double digits yet, right, in terms of open stations, but once they are, hundreds and hundreds.
100, yeah.
Yeah, 0 to 100.
And then you factor in NEVI as well, you're talking thousands of awards there. We've got 117 stations, I think was the count at the last time I checked, actually open, but there are more, I think it's almost 1,000, if not more than 1,000 awards now. So, we're only 10%, just over 10% of the way there, and still a lot more rounds of awards to come, because all of these states, I think Wisconsin is in whatever it's calling round, not 2, but somewhere between 1 and 2, 1.5 maybe. So there's a lot of the states are in the next round, they just waited. The pause has happened. It's still had, building occurring, but we've got this place where NEVI is about to re-inject some impetus into these kind of remote areas, perhaps, and places that we haven't considered before. Pilot Flying J. I mean, we can go on forever with this. It's just an endless list, but the point being that DCFC boom is happening in a lot of places around the country. So I guess
it's really helping us catch up, right? Like,
yeah.
We're not California, we're not New York, or even I was surprised that Massachusetts didn't have any NEVI awards yet.
Yeah, we're incompetent.
Well,
we just have Apple Green was one of the big players around the Northeast, and they've built in pretty much every state, and they just Mass Department of Transportation managed to botch that and get legal action that made them pull out of the Mass Pike. So we are just generally not very good at building chargers. So.
I'm born and bred in Massachusetts, so I feel you.
There you go. Yeah, it's going to take a while, but luckily the neighboring states are doing it, so I can get anywhere on my charge out of state. So that's fine for me, but poor for people having to come through Massachusetts, perhaps. I've got to go back to our notes because we jumped all around the place. Jay, I think you had a little more on Kwik Charge, which I don't want to lose kind of the impetus with what they're doing. Anything you want to share before we kind of shift into the next last little bit of the topic here?
Yeah, and if I could pile onto that before you answer, also the company itself, is it privately owned or is it a publicly owned company? Because it's a very interesting storyline to the national DC fast charger scene that's going on with Kwik Charge.
Kwik Trip is privately owned, but I'm pretty sure it's employee owned. There's a family that kind of controls it, but I know that it's all paid out, or like bonuses and stuff are paid out to every employee, kind of as their investment in the company. So it's it's kind of it's interesting, right? Like, how does this exactly work? I'm not positive, but I do know that like every employee gets money, and I talked to one of the people from Kwik Trip, and he was like, the charging can't lose money because I don't want to take out of, Jane's bonus, who works the kitchen in the back, because we lost, however many dollars because we had to jam chargers in every spot. So, there's, I don't know if that answered your question. But yeah, it's definitely interesting, and it's a little more family than corporate, I guess. But the so I think within 2 months they're going to go from 6 to 12, and and then they've got, sorry, I'm losing my number here, 23 total awards just in Wisconsin. So do we have another map with all of the purple dots? I think that was the one that showed the quick charge future.
And hopefully my audio is better. Sorry, everyone. I've been playing around with the levels trying to get it right, but here's the map. Let's see if I jump onto the right one. Not that one. This one.
Yeah, so this is where quick charge will be when their NEVI build out is. They've only got one station right now, the one in West Salem, which is the I-90 kind of little where the 2 red dots are together on the left side of the state, the western part of the state. The purple ones are still to come. They're, the money's been committed. They haven't started construction yet. So lots more to come from them. So to go from 6 to 12 to 24, that's kind of when they become a little more of a serious option everywhere, not just, on specific routes, but like you can count on, oh yeah, there's a quick charge there, which I think will be very nice. And if you drive up to Minnesota, they have 9 NEVI stations there that will have charging. And we had to go down to Iowa, there's 10 there. So like I think you mentioned that, Steve, there's opportunity to kind of make it not just regional, not just the little home base. This is a map from them. I made the blue circles, but that's if you're going all the way out to South Dakota, that Worthington, Minnesota one way out there on the western I-90 would be a nice place to stop.
Are those all NEVI funded, or are they privately funding some as well?
I'm not sure. I'd have to count them all. I don't think they're putting a lot of other dollars into charging at this point. I think they're hoping that, we'll use the NEVI funds. We'll put in our 20% or whatever, 23% or whatever it is. And, we'll kind of see how that goes. And once that kind of takes off and picks up, then they'll roll that forward into other stores.
Yeah, definitely wildly successful in winning awards. And I think if the pattern holds true for other C-store operators, once they start to see that the numbers of sales in the stores that have charging are noticeably different, and then they just run the amortization on how long it takes to pay off those stations, then they start plopping them in elsewhere. Like the station behind me is kind of like a case in point for that, where Pilot Flying J was putting in 4 stations. So they're like, all right, well, we have this partnership with GM. And I'm pretty sure someone was looking at a spreadsheet and said, look at the black number here, right? They're like, all right, we need to go big. We need to go bigger. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on in these C stores.
I'm overlooking. I mean, I know we're on Quick Trip here, but this is just how much is happening. We've spoken about them plenty of times, Electric Era, and they've just opened a new site with Loves in Buena Vista, Colorado, beautiful site. But we've just spent an hour plus talking about DC fast charging booming and not mentioned a player who's vying for national status, or albeit a mid-tier player. We barely touched on Francis Energy, who have the most NEVI awards, and Dan, the EV man here, had some. I think I missed the comments, but was definitely saying, there's a lot of there's Universal EV, there's Ready, there's a lot of these NEVI funds are trying to kind of that burgeoning some of these providers. Some of them may be a little too over leveraged, and I think there's interesting kind of counterpoints to some of the players that have been seeking NEVI and seeking state level funds who've subsequently had real financial issues. So there's a less positive side potentially if they don't get the calculus right, some of these rising players. But I think the ones who are really quick, like the Quick Trips and the Electric Eras and some of these players who really seem to be balancing it right. They've got a solid base, they know what they're doing, but they've also used the funding wisely by the look of it. That's where it seems to meet the sweet spot for me in this particular topic. And Jay, did we have anything else on the maps? I think we got through most of them. And
I think that was, we got through most of them. So the only thing that I can really remember, I've been kind of tracking each station when I go to them. I think this information is available somewhere to, parent or somebody that knows what an API is. I, do the old Smith Barney and earn it by when I'm at a station, I kind of take the numbers that each of the stations are reporting. And it was a surprise to me that the station in Mount Horeb, which is the one that's closest to me, which Walter, as you're just saying, like, what's the equal? I was down there today to get some numbers before coming on here, and plugged in 6 kilowatts, a breakfast sandwich, and 2 Diet Pepsis later. I was, took some pictures of the charging numbers and was out of there. So, did I have to charge? No, I was at like 68%, but I'm like, well, I'm here. I'll just, plug in. But that's their busiest site. It's also their most expensive site at 59 cents per kilowatt hour. All their other 5 open stations are 45 cents across the board, whether, way up north in Ashland, where you can dip your toe in Lake Superior, or along the Mississippi River in La Crosse. I think that's, that might be the point that they feel is a great price spot, which 45 cents I feel like is pretty good. I didn't feel like in Rhinelander 52 cents for their native or non-discount price was that expensive. So I think 45 is definitely in the ball game. But a station like in Chippewa Falls, I've been there a few times, and that's their number 2 as far as I know. I only have limited data in La Crosse and in Menominee, so I don't want to make big statements on those 2 because we've only got some limited data. But I've got 4 stops at Chippewa Falls. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stops in Mount Horeb. So I feel like I can at least say, hey, here's what happened since then. Man, over the summer, the Chippewa Falls station was putting out almost 300 kilowatt hours a day. Is that a lot? I don't know. But what's it going to do next summer? What's it going to do, the summer after that? What does it do in the winter? That's kind of why I wanted to keep the numbers, was like, okay, let's see how does this go from here? Like, what is this good? Is this bad? I don't know, but
baseline from the beginning there. And it's also, it doesn't really matter to the CPO because, whatever energy is delivered, but it may be, that could just as easily be one Chevy Silverado EV on a very long dinner break, or a bunch of bolts plugging in and walking away for the night. So it's tough to know. It's probably Eric at some point doing his movie watching in his Bolt.
And Tesla has definitely got the process down of opening a station and filling it on day one, where once they start directing in their in-dash nav Teslas to their stations, they fill it up really quick. These other CPOs, it takes a while for people to become familiar that there's a station there, and why they might want to go to one station over another, and popularity and all these other things. So I definitely have seen that stations will open and remain relatively idle for weeks, if not months, and then sometimes it will all of a sudden catch fire, and then it'll be perpetually a staple for the locals and people passing through.
The one other one that I found really interesting, and it's just this, MG&E is the Madison Gas and Electric is the MG&E. They have 4, 5, or 6 around town. They're really low price. They're like 36 cents per kilowatt hour, and that includes the taxes. There's 3 cents per kilowatt hour tax in Wisconsin now. But there's one CPE 250 in the Home Depot parking lot in Madison. And I stopped there when I had my Volvo, and it was back in December of 24. They had put out 31,000 kilowatt hours in its history. Well, I was there on Saturday, and they're up to 97,000. So in 10 months, they've more than almost tripled their throughput of their entire, it opened in 2022, December 29 of 2022 to December 20th of 2024. They put out 30,000 kilowatt hours, and now they're at 97,000.
Yeah. Once it catches on, then it's like you can't get enough of it.
Yeah. And I know every time I go by there, I'm like, Bolt, Hyundai, it's like, yep, it's, so I did the math, and it's used, it's only 62.5 kilowatts. So it's not like it could crank out 300 in an hour and then like come back. So it's got to be in use 4 hours straight per day to get, to the average usage. So it's like, I mean, I've been there at like midnight because that's when my time frees up, but through the day, it's just kind of a constant run of EVs that go through there. And, so that's kind of an interesting story to me, is that like, boy, even this, plain Jane looking quick charge point CPE 250 with a really old looking CHAdeMO port, the CCS one gets a heck of a lot of use, and maybe the CHAdeMO does too. I haven't seen that one broken out, but this is just kind of the numbers that you can pull off of any charge point DCFC receipt that they give you.
So I think we've covered the fact that there is a boom happening. We certainly identified a few places where maybe it's lagging behind, but these things tend to catch on, and with NEVI available to anyone who wants it now, as long as the state is willing to try, they can get in on this action. I guess the question is, having kind of discussed the EV incentives ending ad nauseum the last time we convened, can this last? We know there's a lagging kind of indicator with DC fast charging, especially because the projects typically take 12, 18, 24 months from conception and planning through to delivery. That I think that is speeding up. We've certainly seen Electric Era deliver sites in under a month, and Iona seems to be on average getting these fences up and then into the ecosystem within 60 to 70 days. So that's a bit quicker. But is this, as we get EV adoption potentially slowing down, we know it's potentially going to have some lower quarters here. Does the EV infrastructure start to follow suit, or are we just now, we know where we're going, we just got to build it and then wait for EV adoption to get to the point? Walter, I think you're probably closest to the numbers and maybe have a good sense of where we're heading.
Yes. And the nice thing is I don't have to think, because there's a lot smarter people than me who have already done so. And let me just call out some names: Costco, IKEA, Walmart. Target has a partnership that seems to be burgeoning with Electrify America. These are companies that have pretty deep salary people on their staff in order to perform this analysis. And every single one of these big box stores are like, they can't get enough of electric vehicle chargers for some reason. And they're building them as fast as they can. What we would see if these people saw something, and they've got artificial intelligence tools, they've got every tool imaginable in order to bring to bear whether or not what we're seeing is a smart investment or not, and going to help them achieve their financial goals. And not a single one of these big box stores are scaling back plans, putting push pins in plans, pausing plans, doing wait and sees. None of them. They're all trying to get chargers in the ground as fast as humanly possible, and trying to beat the other one out in a good old fashioned capitalist cutthroat fight to the death.
Yeah, I would almost say that we're several years away before like the realization of, oh, we went too far. And hopefully the charging population just kind of surfs that wave until they like realize like, oh man, we can't support all this. Do you need 4 gas stations on the 4 corners of a stop? But somehow they last. I don't know how sometimes. But like in Wisconsin too, I was just thinking, this is actually a grocery store that's got in Wisconsin and Illinois. They have 20 or 21 stores, and 12 of them have DC fast chargers. Most of them are Tesla supercharger stations, but there's also a Rivian, the Rivian Adventure Network station in Wisconsin is at a Woodman's. So a Meyer is another one in Wisconsin that's got, I was at a station in Howard. It's Electrify America. And right behind that, there's the Tesla only supercharger. So I think, a parking lot, if you can monetize a parking lot for these stores, and these aren't like right by the front entrance for sure. So I think for stores like Target or a Woodman's or Meijer or whatever, man, if you can make money off your parking lot that's doing nothing for you, I think that's that kind of speaks to adding money when you may not have to spend any.
And as a force feedback loop also, because you're also advertising that EVs are a thing, and then it just adds more electric people's interest getting sparked, and then more people buy them, and then more of them get put into use, and then on and on and on it goes. So my personal opinion is the DC fast chargers are a sigil bearer for electric vehicle future adoption as well, because people's daily lives then get interrupted with the whole concept of electric vehicle ownership.
And it's worth noting that once other companies do it, you can't not do it to an extent. If you're, maybe if you're in the middle of North Dakota, you can say, I don't need one of those fangled EV chargers. But, if you're on I-95, if you're on I-70 and the one other gas station competitor across the road from you has an EV charger, it's not something you can really pass on, right? They're starting to get that keeping up with the Joneses effect as more and more sites duplicate that kind of coverage.
Yeah, and have you heard about Hilton's analysis saying that they have specifically seen locations that have level 2 charging at their sites have a noticeable increase in booking rates? That right there is basically game over.
Yep, that's what books me a hotel right now. But it's also interesting. A lot of some of these networks, the Charge Smart EV network specifically, I'm thinking of in New York, is installing at hotels. The other kind of some of these mid-tier networks that we talked about, the Readies and the ones that aren't just going for dealerships. There's small independent businesses, strip malls, and the biggest one I'm seeing kind of come up, which you maybe wouldn't have thought so much, is hotels and kind of resorts. That's the fast charging as well as the level 2 that we would typically associate it with. And I think in the UK they did that as well. Hilton, when I looked it up beyond the US, they've actually partnered, I think it was them, with Ionity in Europe. So they're actually, fast chargers are becoming, because they do have those kind of handy parking lots. If you think about the land grab that went on where everyone's trying to get that off interstate, property, well, maybe the gas stations and convenience stores are all the best ones, but what's next there? Every time you pop off, it's, gas, food, accommodation, right? Those are the three that you hit. And accommodation is the one that has been kind of underutilized for obvious reasons. It's not an ideal DC fast charging stop, but they're typically, they have restrooms, they're 24/7. They maybe have an attached restaurant or some kind of business. So there's potential there as well, I think, that we haven't really even tapped into very hard yet.
And if they know I'm going to spend my $80 to $200 there for staying because they have those, that's...
Yeah. I mean, the practicality of it is less, I think, than a level 2, because purely, although, now we start to get into the realm of 200 kilowatt hour battery packs, that level 2 7 kilowatt overnight doesn't touch the edges of that. You really do need that fast charger to blast it in and then maybe top off on the level 2 overnight. So there probably is some call for that in different use cases. I think by the sound of it, we have come to the conclusion that it is going to last. We will not see us stalling out here. Maybe at some point things do need to plateau, because how can we keep up this pace forever? And poor Lambden's going to be buried in permits and planning if we keep on Walmart, pushing on at the level they are.
Sadly, it's only starting.
This is, there's only so much we can track, but I think we proved in trying to cover as much of it as possible that we have no idea the tsunami that's kind of building there. Okay, I think we pretty much hit everything. I don't know if I missed any questions. I'm going to jump through, but I do want to make sure that we shout out an event that Jay had asked me to pop up here. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about this whilst I double check the comments, Jay. Oh, you're mute.
You're on mute.
Sorry. I'm not on too many of these things. So Wisconsin Clean Cities is in the state. It pushes for all clean energy, propane and such, not just electric vehicles. But they have a Transportation and Innovation Expo coming up in Madison at the end of the month on October 28th. It is free. to go down and walk around the show floor. You need to register on the website here, which Steve has put up. But I'm going to be there. I'm looking forward to talking to all the people that are there. I've seen it before, but there is an electric DeLorean that a company in Madison has put together, and I'm Hoffman EV is the company, and it's they pieced out some other stuff and put it into a sweet looking DeLorean. And as a child of the 80s who walks by a Back to the Future poster on his way down to this desk every day, I've seen it. I haven't touched it, but I want to try to sit in it and just kind of like, get my my hoverboard ready and my power laces for the sit in the DeLorean, because that is one car like I'd like to own a Rivian, but man, an electric DeLorean just really would do something for me. I feel like I don't think my wife would feel the same, but there's the different sides of the coin. So anyway, I think it's going to be fun. There's a lot of other things that they're going to show off. There's also you can register for the conference as well, and there's discussion groups and a whole other side of it. But if you just want to go and see the toys, which is part of it for me, there'll be a big floor open. There's a an electric garbage truck that the city of Madison has that they're going to show off. There's a bunch of other cool vehicles that we'll be able to take a look at. They do have, I don't know exactly how it's going to work because I've been in the Monona Terrace Convention Center before, but they are going to have rides in EVs as well, which in a basement type area you couldn't do in a gas car. So there's another kind of cool thing to do. I know there's a Tesla, I think Model 3 that I saw. So if you've never ridden in one and just want to kind of dip your toe and see like, boy, this is pretty cool. Oh, I see Dennis mentioned the flux capacitor. Yeah, if I got that would definitely be adding on a flux capacitor if I got that DeLorean EV for sure.
I'm all over the place with the comments. Yeah. Awesome. Yes. So I will. I won't read it out because it will probably get lost in the audio. But you can see it on the screen here on the audio version. You can check the show notes. You will be able to find links to that TI Expo. And also to Wisconsin EV. Got that one right.
Wisconsin.
There you go. That's easier. We did have one more question that is entirely related to you, Jay, just before we finish up here. So let me see if I can dig that one out again. It was specifically about lacrosse.
Had the lacrosse quick charge opened. He said he was there 10 days ago and it had not been.
10 days ago should have been open. It opened. I think I just put a video up. I was not trying to go up against this live stream, so I kind of waited, but I think it went live at 8:15. And yeah, it's been open since August. It's right off the interstate. I love their cookie cutterness, but every time you go to a different one, it doesn't feel like you're going to a new one, really, because they're all kind of similar. One of their new stations has like a different footprint, so I'm looking to see like, what was the deal with this one? And but they're just good stops. So they're some of my favorite in the state for sure. And lacrosse, now was it down? I'm not sure, but it's active since August 15th, I think.
Okay, hot off the press from summer activation. Okay, I think, I know we've run out of time, so I want to make sure I get our respective channel links in. As Jay said, Wisconsin on YouTube, you can go there. There's basically a veritable tour across the state of the EV charging in Wisconsin, and I'm sure soon Kwik Charge will be taking you out of state, Jay. So very good work there. Really enjoy the quality of those videos, and the interviews you're getting on them is also really valuable. So appreciate it there, and definitely appreciate all of the work you put into the maps tonight. Thank you very much. I know the crowd appreciated those.
Good, thank you.
we have the Network Architect channel, and as Walter mentioned on his smaller kind of caption there, Out of Spec Bits, still videos going up there, definitely all worth checking out. Really good flow of stuff. Would be remiss not to mention Mr. Eric Way, Gone But Not Forgotten, and hopefully with some very interesting content coming out soon. We shall say no more. Zip lips.
Big news.
Yep. Use Coolum 3705 on YouTube, or just Google 2027 Bolt TV probably in a few days' time. And for my part, I am very inactive in videos at the moment. I hope to resolve that in the coming weeks, but you can check out a weekly newsletter called the Weekly One-to-One that will give you station downloads, the latest news, fleet listens from the EV world and EV infrastructure specifically, all the stuff that nerds talk about, as we have, and that's at evi.plugandplayev.com. Thank you, Jay, for joining us. Really appreciate all of the notes. Coast to Coast EVs is not just the coast, it is everything in the middle, and the Great Lakes is one of my favorite places to visit. So appreciate the trips down memory lane, and hopefully I'll be able to get out there pretty soon. In the meantime, great. Your videos are the way I'm going to access it. So thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for the super chats there. Really appreciate those and all the questions. Lots of good stuff. And hopefully next time the mic will be a little more friendly to me. But until then, and 2 weeks' time, cheers, nerds.